Hey YouTubers, welcome to Everyday Finance. I'm your host, Bobby. If this is your first time on the channel, welcome. Thank you so much for taking time out to look at this video. If you like more content similar to this video, go ahead and smash that like and subscribe button. In today's video, we're going to talk about credit cards and everything that deals with them, whether it be interest rates, whether it be rewards, and the different types of credit cards as well. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Alright guys, so let's talk about credit cards. Everyone or nearly everyone has a credit card, right? You know, you see them when people are shopping at the grocery store, when you're at your favorite retail store, or even sometimes when you're out at a bar. Credit cards are a useful financial tool that we use every day in transactions. Now, think about it. Let's start with a definition of credit card. Credit cards are a useful tool that we use in lieu of paying with debit cards or with cash or checks. Now, credit cards essentially are just a line of credit that is extended to you by a bank or another company. There are two basic types of credit cards. There are secured cards and there are unsecured cards. Let's talk about the first one. With secured cards, you have to put down a down payment. And secured cards are primarily used for people who are either building credit or people who are attempting to repair their credit. Secured cards are cards that are secured using a down payment that you put in. Once you've secured the card using a down payment, however, it functions the same way that a traditional credit card does. You're able to make purchases. You may or may not, depending on the card and who the card issuer is, be able to do balance transfers. You may be able to get rewards. You may be able to do cash as well through the card. Now, the way these cards work, in addition to having to be secured, you have to pay them at the end of the month or at the end of the billing cycle, the same way you would a normal credit card as well. Now, let's talk about the second type of credit card, unsecured cards. Unsecured cards are cards that do not require a down payment or security in order for a credit line or limit to be given to you. Now, there are so many different variations of unsecured cards. For the premise of this video, we'll talk about four: MasterCards, Visa cards, Discover cards, and American Express. Those, for the most part, are the different types of credit cards that you'll see, but the servicers will be different. A very popular credit servicer right now, a credit card servicer, is Capital One. You'll see a lot of variations of cards they've got out there, from a venture card to whatever type of name for those different cards, right? But unsecured cards are for people who have established credit or people with excellent credit. One of the benefits of having an unsecured card is that in addition to having to not pay a down payment in order to get the card, you also get the flexibility of having, in most cases, a higher limit. With secured cards, your limit is secured based on the amount of money that you can provide. With unsecured cards, your limit is only preset based on your credit score, along with the amount of money that you earn as well during that time that you apply. So that's one big up of having an unsecured card versus a secured card. Another major feature of an unsecured card is rewards, cash back, balance transfers, points, miles, things of this nature. There are a lot of people out there who have unsecured cards that use them specifically for the perks that they receive with the cards. Now, this may be getting cash back when using the card at a particular place. That may be using the card when traveling. You get miles back that you can redeem at a later date. Now, one thing we don't want to do with credit cards is confuse them with debit cards. Credit cards and debit cards are two completely different type of financial tools. As we specified earlier, credit cards are a line of credit that's granted to you through a bank or a company. Debit cards pull funds that you already have from your checking account. So the difference in them is that with a debit card, you don't have to pay anything back because the funds are being deducted from your account as the transaction occurs. With credit cards, you have to pay back the amount that you use the credit card for at the end of the billing cycle or before, whatever your preference may be with that. So there's some fundamental differences between credit and debit cards. Now, what makes credit cards more popular to consumers than debit cards is the fact that it allows you to borrow money. You don't necessarily have to have the funds on hand right now in order to make a purchase if it's something that you need, want, or are in a financial or emergency situation where you need it right now. That's one of the upsides of credit cards over debit cards. You don't have to have the funds right now in order to complete a transaction. In addition, credit cards, like their name suggests, bills and reports to the major credit bureaus. So when you complete transactions using a credit card and you pay that money back to the credit card, that information is sent to the 3 credit bureaus and allows people to either continue to maintain or build their credit as well. Now, when it's time to pay your credit card back, you have several options, or 3 options for the most part that I like to think about. When it's time to pay your credit card back, you can pay the minimum amount, you can pay a median amount, or you can pay the full amount back. We're gonna talk about all 3. So let's start with the minimum amount. Now, the minimum amount, it's usually listed on your credit card statement or online if you're looking at it through a mobile app, and it tells you this is the amount that you have to pay every month within this certain time period. Now, depending on what your interest rates and other fees associated with your credit card are, you may want to stay away from paying the minimum amount on your card. The reason for that is because paying the minimum amount on your card is, though it's the minimum amount and it's the smallest amount of money to pay in order to keep your credit card active, it also is the most expensive option available in terms of payback. Think about it. Using an example, if we buy something today that costs $100 and we in 30 days have to pay $10 back of that $100, it's gonna take us at least 10 payments to pay back the $100. And what that doesn't include is any interest and fees associated with that transaction. So think about that as an example. That would be the most expensive way of doing something. Sometimes you can pay double the amount of the original transaction if you only make minimum payments. The second option is to pay a median amount. If you know that, using the example from earlier, if you know that you paid $100 for a transaction, you decide I don't have $100 right now, or I can't afford to pay the full amount back, but you also don't want to pay only $10 back, you can pay a median amount, say $50 in this case. The $50, when it applies to your credit card balance, will give you $50 of credit back to your account. In addition to that, it's above the minimum amount, so it allows you to save money. Think about this. In the example used earlier, $100, paying it $10 at a time takes 10 payments. $100, paying it $50 at a time takes 2 payments, and that's without any interest applied. Now, when you add interest to that, the differences between those 2 examples can be very significant. The third and final option in terms of paying back your credit card is paying the transaction amount in full. Now, this is the best option in my opinion. The reason why is because it allows you to not have to pay interest or fees sometimes associated with carrying a balance on your credit. In addition to that, it allows you to keep the numerical amount that you owe to the credit card company on your card low. So in my opinion, this is the best way to go about things. Now, one thing I like to think about when making credit card purchases is if I have the money to buy this in cash in my account, or if I will have the funds within a 30-day period to pay it back. If you think about things from that perspective, it'll allow you to make sound purchase decisions. where you aren't spending money that you don't necessarily have right now and costing yourself more money. While we're on the subject of paying back your credit card, keep this in mind. Your payment history accounts for 35% of your credit score with the credit bureaus. The reason why I say that is because you don't want to have only the minimum payment apply to your card every month, because the credit bureaus frown upon this in the algorithm that they have to determine your credit score. Now, this could significantly bring your score down based on you only paying a minimum amount, especially if you have a large transactional amount that you owe on the credit card. In addition to that, making no payments is something that you don't want to do. Now let's talk about some of the benefits of credit cards, whether that be secured or unsecured cards. Some of the major benefits of having credit cards is financial flexibility. Financial flexibility means that you can buy things today that you may not necessarily have the funds for right now. Think about it. Have you ever incurred an emergency situation where you had to pay something that was either a substantial amount or amount that you currently didn't have in your checking account? Well, the great thing about credit cards is that they give you, depending on your limit, the financial flexibility to be able to cover these expenses, unforeseen expenses, without having to have the funds in your checking account right now. Another benefit of credit cards are rewards. There are so many different tiers of reward systems within credit cards. Some of them include mileage, some of them include points, some of them include cash back as well. Now, these are all rewards that people typically will get cards for, whether that be someone who travels a lot and covers their expenses through their credit cards and are able to offset some of the costs involved with the trips that they take by redeeming the points or miles that they score with their credit card purchases. The same can be said with simple purchases such as gas. Think about it. The last time that you pumped gas, have you ever seen a flyer of some sort where the particular company that you're purchasing gas from is offering some type of incentive to buy gas using their card or card services? This is definitely a reward. Another benefit of credit cards is building and maintaining credit. Think about this. For someone who has no credit whatsoever, getting a credit card gives them the ability to show the credit bureaus that they can use money in a smart way and pay the money back on time as well. For someone who's established with credit, it gives them the ability to maintain that credit profile for themselves or with someone else if you're an authorized. Now let's talk about some of the bad things or the fine print that you'll see associated with credit cards. And that's the fees. Now there are multiple fees that can be associated with the credit card. Some of the fees that we're going to cover today are going to be interest rates or APR, balance and transfer fees, cash advance fees, and annual fees. We'll talk about all of those right now. Now, the interest rate or APR is the most important of these fees. This is the amount that you will be charged every month at the end of the billing cycle for the transaction. So let's say, for example, you have a 10% interest rate or APR applied to transactions that you have. And once again, you've made a $100 purchase and you allow that transaction to be on your card after the billing cycle has completed. Well, now you're going to be charged 10% of that $100. So now, instead of having $100 that you owe the company, you now owe them $100 plus 10% of that amount. Now, interest rates, if we're going to define them, are a privilege fee that you pay for being able to access a line of credit through a credit card. Interest rates can vary. One of the top ways that interest rates will vary is based on your credit score. Now, your credit score, when it's higher, will give you a lower interest rate. When it's lower, you're looking at a higher interest rate. These things work inversely when talking about credit cards and interest rates. In addition to interest rates, cash advance fees are something that you will incur on cards as well. Now, let's say you have a limit on your card of $5,000 and you run into an unforeseen expense that requires you to have $500 and you can't just swipe your card for it, you have to have cash. Well, what happens is that when you go to an ATM and you deduct $500 from your credit card, there's a cash advance fee that's applied with that amount. So depending on what that particular amount is, you'll have to pay back the $500. plus the cash advance fee. Now, one of the drawbacks of this is that if you allow that to carry on your account for multiple billing cycles, you'll end up paying significantly more than you initially deducted from the credit card to begin with. Now let's talk about annual fees. Annual fees are fees that you are assessed every year on the card. Now, when you get a credit card, you'll have an information pamphlet that you receive that gives information to all of the fees that you would be assessed on the card. That way, before making a purchase, if you have questions with regards to any rates or fees that you're going to have assessed on your card, you can refer back to that information and then make a decision on whether or not. That pretty much sums everything up in terms of credit cards. What do you think about credit cards? Was there some information that I missed within this video that you'd like covered in future videos with regards to credit cards? Leave a message below in the comment section and let me know. If you've enjoyed this content, go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe as well. And always remember, no goal is unattainable when you apply everyday finance.